So, welcome to today. Going to do something a bit different today. We're going to have the testimony of Ray. And so, Ray, just starting off, can you tell us a bit about your growing up, your childhood, what your home life was like?
Yeah, of course. So growing up, I was born and raised in Pimlico, London. Um, both parents in the household, mum and dad. Quite a loving household. More so from my mum. Um, my mum was a loving mum, but also at the same time very strict as well. We'd get a good hiding every now and then, sometimes for no reason. Most of the time because we deserved it, but sometimes for no reason. My dad was more of always worked, hard worker, but always down the pub. So he would go to work and then straight down the pub. And my dad could also come home and just be a bit heavy-handed with us, sometimes for no reason as well. Um, but yeah, so growing up, had a good home life in a sense. We didn't, my mum and dad worked hard. Mum had a few jobs, didn't just have one job, had a few jobs. But we always sort of had what we wanted. We never had the best of everything. We was always dressed. We was always fed. Um, you know, a lot of the time our mates and that had all the best bikes and skates. We went through a period we was all on skates and that, and they had the best skates, and we didn't necessarily have the best, but we had a bike or skates or whatever, And if we wanted any better, we all had paper rounds and stuff, So we would all sort of save up to add to if we wanted better or whatever. But yeah, so growing up, not just with my mum and dad as well. We had a big family, cousins and everything else. So we was always round each other's houses, round uncle and aunties and cousins and everything else. And we had a lot. So we was always round each other's houses. And, sometimes mum and dad would go away and then, put us in different parts of the family's houses. So I would be at one auntie's and uncle's, and my sister would be at another, and then my brother's somewhere else, But yeah, no, it was a good childhood, to be honest. In the sense of home life,
Mm.
and upbringing. Tough at times, like I say, because back then, as you'll know yourself, parents didn't tolerate much, and it didn't take much for them to give you a good hiding. So no, we had a loving home in a sense. Few hidings when we didn't deserve it, but mostly we did. But no, it was all right. Yeah, childhood was okay.
Yeah, sure, no worries. And obviously, you had brothers and sisters as well.
Yeah, yeah. Two brothers, one sister.
Two brothers, one
Yeah,
sister. And so, as you grew up and got into your teenage years, can you explain what you sort of like got involved in?
yeah. So I didn't really go to school in my teenage years. I mean, when I say I didn't go to school, I went to school when I wanted. My mum and dad were the type that I would just turn around and say, "Oh, mum, I don't want to go to school today. Can I just stay at home and do the housework?" And they would be right. Get the housework done. As long as you get the housework done, you can stay at home. And then there were days I'd want to go to school. So like it'd be days when there's PE or days when there's cooking or something like that, and I would just be in and out whenever I wanted to, sort of thing. But yeah, growing up, lived on Churchill Gardens estate. It was really good. Everybody knew everybody. It was it wasn't like it is today. You could go to different estates without being stabbed or shot, or
Mm.
you'd have the odd
Yeah.
fights in different areas and that. Don't get me wrong. Sometimes didn't get on with certain people, but the worst that would happen is you'd have a fight. And that was it. But as I was in and out of school, I was, I'd say, well respected and well liked in this because I was the type that if I see an old lady carrying shopping, I'd run over and I'd take them off her. I'd go, "Let me carry them for you," and I'd carry her shopping home for her and stuff like that. So everyone loved me because I was that kind of person, you know, very helpful and everything else. But at the same time, I didn't really get into drugs or anything else until a bit later than my mates. A lot of my mates was all smoking weed, cannabis, everything at an early age, whereas I didn't really start at an early age. Well, I say early age because I was the type that I would. A lot of my mates had decks; they were DJs and stuff like that, or you know, would have decks in their own bedrooms and stuff like that. So when I would go down their houses with them, with all my other mates, they'd all be smoking and I wouldn't be. But because I was in the room, I was getting high from their fumes of them smoking. So they would get me to do silly things like break dance, body pop, and all that. Like because I was, you know.
So what age was this in?
Oh, from about 14,
Right.
15, 14,
Okay.
15. And I know that's early, but when I say, I mean, my mates were doing it from like 12, you know, maybe even earlier than that, some of them, you know. So that's what I mean, a little bit later than my mates and that. But then obviously after a while, I just started smoking it anyway because I was getting high anyway. So I just ended up started smoking it myself, and yeah, from there on, sort of went down a bit of a spiral really with drink and drugs and everything else. We was allowed into our local pub from quite early ages, and that the landlady would act like she's tough, but she weren't. You know, she'd let us all upstairs and we'd be up there smoking and drinking, and you know, and then from there, going into sort of late teens, early 20s was more harder drugs. You know, as we got a bit older, sort of led into harder and stronger sort of drugs. But yeah,
What sort of drugs is that?
Cocaine, um, ecstasy when we was going out clubbing. A lot of my mates took acid, LSD, but I never did. That was one things like the only two drugs I would never touch would be LSD, acid, and also heroin because I was always scared of needles. Thank God, yeah, I was petrified of needles back then. So they're the two drugs I would never go anywhere near. But yeah, cocaine, ecstasy, you know, cannabis, obviously all the time. Alcohol became a massive thing as well. But yeah,
Was it sort of like on a daily thing? I mean, how often would you?
more. It started off more weekends. So
Right.
whenever we would like, you'd go to work all week, and then on the weekend you'd let your hair down, and that's when you would do the cocaine or the you know at the LSD. Sorry, the MDMA, ecstasy, going out clubbing. But going out clubbing, the thing is, we would already be on a cocktail of drugs before we go out clubbing, and then while you're out clubbing, you could be like, you know, completely high as a kite, out your nut, and you'd be running around the club. You wouldn't even be dancing because you're so out your nut. You'd be running around the club, and someone you pass one of your mates in the club because there'd be like 20, 30 of us sometimes in a club, you know, and they'd throw something in your mouth. You don't know what it is that's gone in your mouth, but you're just swallowing something else. Yeah, you don't know what it is. But yeah, that's how sort of it got really, and it was started off on the weekends, but obviously the older you got, the longer you was on it. It got more like during the week as well. You know,
Of course, of course. And then, sort of like as you went on, you met Nikki as well. Can you sort of tell us a bit about your
yeah,
meeting and Nikki and?
yeah. I met Nikki when I was 21, just after my 21st birthday. Um, and yeah, I was the sort of person I didn't really want to settle down with people. You know, I was very sexually immoral. You know, and yeah, I was a bit of a naughty boy. Just you know, bit of a I was yeah, I was a bit not. I mean, to be honest with you, even from a very early age, I was you know, sexually active in the sense of um, you know, not really knowing what I'm doing, but you know, I was affected by things that I'd seen from an early age, things like pornos and stuff like that. So from a very early age, you know, I was sort of had a very depraved mindset, I suppose, in a sense. Like, you know, it weren't right. You know, what I knew from a very early
Mm.
age, and I'm not proud of the things I've done, but you know, I was affected from a very early age from finding pornographic material on the old VHSs and
Yeah,
stuff
yeah.
like that, and even doing things with, you know, girls,
Mm.
obviously, you know, which weren't right, and you know, but you know, I didn't see it as a problem
Yeah,
then.
yeah,
You
yeah,
know, it was, but yeah,
yeah. I think we was all, if we weren't brought up Christian,
yeah,
such as knowing the Lord properly, I think we've all been exposed to that. I think everyone can
absolutely,
relate to that.
yeah. Whether it
So
whether it be magazines or whether it
yeah,
be
100%. At school, talking
school,
about it,
yeah,
yeah, yeah, it's
a-
just the way of life.
absolutely, yeah.
So that's it. And so then you met Nikki. So how did you meet Nikki?
So it was just after my 21st birthday. I was with another partner who I'd met on holiday. And we went out clubbing, and she sort of tried it on my best mate, or one of my good mates, best mates, sort of thing. We were all very, very close. All of us were best mates. We didn't have a specific best mate, but
Mm.
you know what I mean.
Yeah,
Like we
yeah,
was
yeah,
all,
you're
but
close.
yeah. And thankfully, I mean, I knew something was going on. That even as I was out me nut, but I could tell something weren't right and something was going on anyway. She tried it on him, and he told me about it and everything. Thankfully, like as a good mate does, you know what I mean. He just said, him and another mate pulled me in the pub a few days later and said, like, jog her on, you know what I mean.
Mm.
Tell her to do one, you know what I mean. And which was, I was hurt, but I was thankful for. And anyway, and it was after that, it was like sort of met Nikki shortly after and everything, and got with Nikki, and yeah, Nick had two kids. She had Luke and Haley, and um, like I said, I wasn't the type to sort of want to settle down or anything like that. So, you know, and you know, I was the type that like I would hold her hand, but if anyone of my mates or anyone in the area, with my hand, I would hold her hand because it's like I weren't that sort of person. And then obviously your mates and that, like taking the mick, I already made family and all that, you know what I mean? Because she had two kids and all that. So, you know, sort of, I didn't really want to everyone to know I'm like, you know,
Yeah,
actually, you know, want to sort of have a long lasting relationship with her. It was just like, oh, Ray's just being Ray, you know what I mean, sort of thing. Just, you know, going through a phase or whatever. I don't know, you know
mm.
what I mean. But yeah, so that's how I met Nikki.
Was that
Um,
at 21 then?
just after my 21st.
Just after your
Yeah, yeah. So
21st? So
yeah,
it's
I was
quite young.
21.
Yeah,
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 yeah.
yeah, yeah. Okay, and I mean, sort of like as Nikki and yourself, I mean, was she like just was she like, not just another girl on the estate, that sounds wrong, was she another girl on the estate you sort of like grew up with, or was she someone who you bumped into in a club, or was he someone through the drugs, or what?
Yeah, so Nick wasn't from our estate originally. She was from like the Battersea area, Wandsworth Road.
Yeah, yeah.
So there wasn't someone I really knew too much, to be honest. But we sort of let each other know that we liked each other, sort of thing. You know what
Mm.
I mean? A bit of flirting and everything else. Um, and yeah, so um, from there, sort of, yeah.
Yeah, yeah. Okay, no worries. And so, like, as you went on, in obviously, when did you sort of like move in, and what was the situation regarding the drugs, and how was your lifestyle leading, and what led you to the point where you come to the Lord?
So so I didn't move in with Nikki straight away because, like, actually, again, like immorally, like Nikki actually had a partner herself when we first sort of
Oh,
started,
right,
like, sort of
okay.
like letting each other, um, you know, started sort of old me and Mrs. Jones type. You know, we got a thing going on. So,
Hmm.
but yeah, so you know, it wasn't really right. She did have a partner. It wasn't a long time partner or anything like that. Just, you know, it was someone she met on the estate before me, sort of thing. But then
Yeah, of
obviously,
course.
which was wrong, and we're sorry for that. You know what I mean? But we were both sexually immoral. We were both, you know, none of us knew the Lord back then. We just, and the thing is, it's like on my estate that I lived in. It could possibly be the same that you know about, but it was like anything goes sort of
Mm.
thing. Anything goes. Like it was just, yeah, it was a bit like messed up. Like it didn't really matter. Like,
Yeah, of
you
course.
know, didn't know it at the time though, you know what I mean? It's just, it was what it was, you
Mm.
know what I mean? But yeah, so that's how I met Nikki. And then obviously when me and Nikki got serious, then obviously she like, you know, said to her, well, before we got serious, you know, she said to her partner, she finished it with who she was with and all that. And so we started getting a bit more serious. And then I did move in. So my mum and dad were like, you made your bed, go and lay in it.
Yeah,
You
of
know what I
course.
mean?
Yeah.
Sort of like, go on, off you go. Like they was happy for me to get out the house sort of thing. So yeah, so I moved in with Nick. Yeah, drink and drugs were really, really bad. You
Between the
know,
both of you.
more me, more me.
Right.
Nikki would do
Okay.
it sociably, like
Right.
socially. She would just do it like if we went out,
Hmm.
you know what I mean? But me, I would be doing it all the time, you know, and I'd be out all the time. Whereas her already having two kids, she wouldn't really be out
Yeah, of
that much and
course.
everything. So Nick would she never really smoked or anything like that. She hated like that sort of but she did do cocaine, and her main thing that Nikki would do would be speed amphetamines,
Hmm.
because it would keep her going, like you know,
Yeah, of
especially
course.
being a mother and everything else, like being able to do 101 different things, and it was massive on our estate. You know, all the women were on it to lose weight, and that it was
Hmm.
like it was a thing, like they all just went on just to lose weight, but then you don't realize, but you get addicted to it. You know,
Yeah, yeah. Yes.
you think it's innocent, but it's yeah. But yeah, so the drug between us, yes, we would do drugs more so me, but Nick would also do it, but more socially. She would do it if we was out and stuff like that. But yeah,
Yeah. And so, sort of, I mean, as it sort of days went on, how did that affect your relationship? And
yeah, it caused it affected it. I think everything affected our relationship. To be honest, everything in the sense of how we got together. Um, and the drink, the drugs, and everything else, because I was a very jealous, um, assuming she was having affairs and everything else. And obviously, the way we met, maybe that was in the back of my mind. Well,
yeah,
you
yeah,
know, and then the drink and the drugs
yeah.
certainly don't help.
Paranoid.
They make you
Yeah.
so paranoid and everything else. And I would be working on my local. A lot of my work I'd done. I worked on my estate that we lived on. We was always building sites up
Mm.
everywhere and all that. So we always had work sort of on our estate. And I would be running home at lunchtime, like thinking she's having it with someone else. You know what I mean? Like sort of, I'll catch her, like you know what I mean. It was just the paranoia from, you know, like I say, how we met and got together, but also drinking drugs. Definitely,
Yeah.
absolutely, was played a massive part in me sort of. So it worked. So it weren't great, to be honest, because there was a lot of accusations from me, sort of thing. Like,
Yeah.
and I, even though I never physically touched her, but I would mentally, the words I would call her names, call her all the names under the sun, only because of my own paranoia.
So it's quite toxic then. It got to a stage where it's quite toxic.
Yeah.
And so, I mean, how did that move on then? I mean, how did you sort of like move on from there? Obviously, you met Nikki, moved in together. She had two children. You still carried on the drugs. You had that paranoia. I
Mm.
mean, obviously, that caused problems within your relationship.
Yeah.
So, how did you get from there to coming to the Lord? What happened there?
So obviously during that time as well, we had kids of our own. So we've got six. We had six kids, and Nick's oldest two, Haley and Luke, they were only babies anyway at the time,
Mm.
4 and 5. So you know, I'm all they know as dad. So you know, but
So, how long was lapsed then between?
so I think when we got together, I think it might have been a couple of years, and then we had Angel.
Yeah, yeah.
We was together a couple of years, then we had Angel, and then Hope not long after, then Honey not long after. Then Nick was pregnant and had a miscarriage and nearly died. And then after the miscarriage, she got pregnant again and had the twins, Jacob and Billy. And after the twins, not long, not even a year after, she had Caleb.
Right.
So, but that was all over a long period of time, sort of thing. So even during all this and that, um, we had times where we had one of our girls, Angel. she nearly died herself. She was actually put in a coma by the hospital. She was in such a bad state, but even that didn't stop me doing the drinking, the drugs, and everything else. I was still, so yeah, we I got to the stage where I was so bad. We lived above shops, and you could jump up onto the roof of the shops, and then from there you literally could just get over my balcony. It was like right there. So I would jump up to the roof of the shops and then jump up onto my balcony, put drugs, put a bottle of vodka, put some cocaine, whatever, on my back balcony, jump back down, go all the way round to the front, buzz the buzzer, get in, go up, knock on the door, go in and say, like, act like everything's normal and everything else, and then like tell her to go to bed. She'd be like, I don't want to go to bed. I'm like, no, go to bed, you know what I mean? And then obviously as soon as she does, then I'm going on my balcony, I'm drinking and I'm doing like, on my balcony. That's how bad I got. So anyway, what happened was I was on London Underground at the time. I worked on London Underground, and she kicked me out. Basically, she'd had enough. She said, "That's it. I've had enough. Get out. Get your stuff." She went to a good friend of ours, who is like a best friends sort of thing, called Isabel. She went up to stay with her and said, "By the time I get back, I want all your stuff gone. I want you out, everything else." So I went to work, and there was a guy at work called Tim, and he was a born again believer, and he used to talk to me every now and then. I didn't really take too much notice, to be honest. But obviously, where I went in this day, I was like in a bit of a state, you know what I mean? Didn't know what to do. And he said to me, do I want to go and pray with him downstairs in the mess room? And I was like, I sort of agreed, like, just didn't know what else, you know what I mean? What could it hurt? I've got nowhere else to go, nothing else to, I've tried everything else. No matter how much I tried, I couldn't stop, you know what I mean? I had an addiction, you know what I mean? I was really, really bad. To the point of, even before this, there were times I would be so out my nut, I'd just be staring at the ceiling, like asking for help, like don't even know who I'm asking for help for, because there's no one there or anything, but just like asking for help. So obviously crying out into the abyss, you know what I mean, for help, like, please help me, like I don't want to do this. I hated my life, I hated doing it, but I was addicted and I couldn't stop. I couldn't.
On that respect, when you say you was calling out, did you have any belief then? Who was you calling out to? Was it just sort of like yourself, like, I don't know, open to anything?
Yeah, so pretty much open to anything sort of thing, because my mum raised us quite religious, in the sense of she would always take us to churches. I mean, we were Church of England in the sense of that's how we were, raised. She would take us to churches, Catholic churches as well, and we would just go in and light candles for people and stuff like that. So my mum was a religious person, but weren't practicing like her religion or anything like that. Just she was religion. She had faith, you know what I mean, in God and Jesus. Obviously, you'd go into the churches. So I was raised, obviously, Easter's back then when we were kids, you used to watch the Jesus films at Easter, the Ten Commandments, the Greatest Story Ever Told, Jesus of Nazareth, and all these sort of films and everything. So they was all in me, don't get me wrong, they were there. So I had a sort of understanding, but there was nothing. It was just like, I knew there was this person called Jesus, didn't understand it. I just knew that there was this guy who died on a cross, and he was, a good person, very, very good, didn't deserve to die. And what happened to him was wrong and everything else,
So it was like knowledge of, but not the relationship with.
Absolutely. Yeah. Knowledge, but no heart, There was in the mind, but not in the heart. Yeah,
Okay.
And so, also as well, going back a little bit, with the drugs, I also, just towards the end as well, I did start smoking a bit of crack as well. I didn't do it much, or it weren't like I was, but I explored it, You
Yeah.
know, I just tried it a couple of times.
Had a dabble.
A dabble, yeah, sort of thing, you know. But it's like, and so anyway, I went to work. Tim took me down to the staff mess room sort of thing, and every time he was about to start praying and everything, I kept stopping him because I kept hearing the door go, and I thought someone was going to walk in or whatever, and it was embarrassing. But anyway, lo and behold, we did pray. He prayed, and he said, you know, if you want to, you know, repeat after me, or, you know, just something in your own heart, something in your head, you know. And we prayed, and from that minute, I stopped drink, drugs instantly, like literally instantly. I didn't touch drink, I didn't touch drugs for over 4 years. It was an instant. The Lord done something in my life. You know, Tim didn't just leave it at that. Tim started coming and getting me and taking me to church, taking me to midweek studies, taking me. So I was very, very involved, like in the sense of, you know, I weren't just, you know, we didn't just say this prayer and that was it. You know, he left me to my own devices and that. No.
When you sat down there and you're sitting in this canteen, and then you got like Tim praying with you, and I mean, can you remember sort of like what your thoughts was then, and like how low you was, and like the feeling? Was there a feeling that come over you, or was it just a change of mindset? What can you remember that moment?
I think there wasn't like a feeling or anything that came over me.
Mm.
I just, yeah, I was just really, really low. I was just really, I knew I was in a bad place.
Yeah.
I knew something had to happen in my life, you know, because where I wasn't good. You know what I mean? I was going to either end up dead or in prison, or, you know, something, just because of, you know, choices I was making, you know.
Yeah. You knew these are the wrong choices.
Absolutely, 100%.
Couldn't see a way out.
Absolutely. And, you know, but the thing about it is that no one else knew.
Yeah.
Obviously only me, because it's in my heart that these things were going. No one else could see it. They all still saw me as this lovely Ray that would help old people with their shopping, that would like go and do things for, I'd do anything for anyone type thing, you know. They didn't see the torment and the depths of evil, that the faults that I would have, you know what I mean, that were possible within me, you know what I mean. They only saw the outside. They couldn't see what was really going on in my heart, thoughts that I would have, whether they would be hatred and anger, or you know, sexual immorality, like with all different types of things. Like, you know, I just don't know what I would have been able to do, sort of thing, because of the drink, the drugs, and everything else. You know, I was just.
You're on a path, and you didn't know where it was taking you.
You know,
and no one else understood.
And no one else understood.
You put on that front.
Absolutely.
I think sort of like, that happens so often in society, and I think we've all been there. We get in a state, and we don't want to show others our weaknesses.
Absolutely.
A bit of pride keeping in, really, and like, we don't want people to think bad of us. You know what I mean?
Absolutely.
So
absolutely,
so,
definitely.
So, like, you were in a really bad place. Obviously, started on the crack. Obviously, just dabbled, but that could have led to a lot worse. Brought you down. Problems at home. Then Tim comes in. Tim, I'm presuming was from Calvary Chapel?
Yes.
Right. Okay, just to get his background. So
Calvary Chapel, South London. Yeah,
okay. And then, so you had this prayer with him, and like you just instantly stopped all the drugs, and drink, that. And you sort of, what sort of things did Tim get you involved in?
So I would, sometimes it would be twice a week during the week. So sometimes he would take me on a Tuesday to I can't remember their name. They were like Philippine, but they were lovely. And he would take me to their house, and we would have like a Bible study. But like, obviously Tim was worship leader, so he would like be doing the worship. And I'm not gonna lie, like it was really, really awkward and weird at first, because it was like something new to me. It was like, you know, all these people singing like Kumbaya, like, they weren't Kumbaya, but like songs to God, and it was just really, really strange and different. And it was like, it just felt really, really weird, but it was nice as well at the same time. It was really, it was it was real, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
It weren't fake. It was real, you know. They really had a love for God, and the love they showed me, you know what I mean? Didn't know me from Adam, but yet, you know, they were so loving and everything else. And so that was there on Tuesday. But also Tim would have sometimes meetings at his house, where he lived in Lewisham at the time. So sometimes I would go to that as well. And then obviously Sunday, you know, Sunday we would have church. And so, you know, and it would be me at first, but then later on, as time went on, Nikki started coming with the kids and everything else. So like there were times I would have 3 times a week, fellowship sort of thing, which was amazing. And I think that's what was a massive, massive help in helping me to stay away from the influences. Because as we'll go on in a minute, you'll see that when I thought I was strong, I actually wasn't. But yeah.
So before we get there, I mean, obviously you just turned around and said, like, so you've got these influences, you've got Tim coming in your life, you've got these home groups going, you're going to Calvary Chapel, South London at this stage, so you're getting good, solid meat and understanding, teachings of the Bible.
Yeah.
And then, so how did that change with your personal life? I mean, obviously you've got your friends that you're going out, smoking with, drinking, whatever else. And then you've got Nikki, who's obviously not at this stage, sort of thing. So what was the transition in your life, and how did that affect your relationship with your friends, your family, your wife?
Well, to be honest with you, I actually didn't really see my mates that much anymore anyway.
Right.
So when I was going out, when I was at my worst, I was going out, and sometimes I would see them, but I didn't really have much to do with them anymore because we was all a bit older. They had their partners, their kids, and everything else. And I was a bit of a nuisance, to be honest. I was a little bit of I became the sort of person that I wouldn't want to be around.
Yeah,
you know what I mean? I just started. So I was so on the drink and the drugs. If I knew someone else had the drugs, I sort of try and cling to them a little bit. You know what I mean? And I was just a little bit of a sort of person you wouldn't really want to. You know what I mean? Like, and I don't blame you. But then obviously, then I got saved, and when I did get saved, like I say, I didn't really have much to do with them anyway. But then when I did see them after I got saved and that, it's like you could tell there was a little bit of like unsurety from them, like, oh, he's a bit of a weirdo now, he's a bit of a nutter, like, you know. And there were a couple of people in my area as well, which is like, you know, walking across, like, you know, across the road, God bless you, God bless you. You know what I mean? And all that. Because that was one of my things. I mean, my dad was always this type of person. My dad would also, God bless you, sort of thing. Anyway, that was like just standard talk. He weren't a born again believer. He weren't, you know, but my dad would always say, God bless you.
Yeah.
So I sort of always had that anyway, saying God bless you. But then when I got saved, I said it more and more. Oh, God bless, take care. So like a couple of people in my area would be, God bless you, you know, but I actually enjoyed it because it was like, you know, it was like a sign that they knew that, you know, I had changed, you know, that
they could see the change.
Yeah, they could see the change. And whether they thought I was a weirdo, you know, they thought like it was just a weird cult I was in or some sort of weird, you know, phase I was going through, you know, he'll come out of it, you know. But no, and even to the point as well, there were actually people that actually said to me, again, because they thought I was this good person in a sense, you know, they pulled me and said to me, like, you don't need that Bible, you know what I mean? You're a good person, Ray, you know, you sort yourself out, you know. But then when I said to them, you know, yeah, but you're only seeing the outside. You don't know what was going on in my heart. You don't know the things that I was thinking, the things that I was going through. Oh, don't be so stupid. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like they was like, no, don't be so stupid. You know, they didn't get it. You know, but I did, obviously.
Yeah, cool. And so all this is going on. I mean, when you got to the bit where you got saved with Tim, or when you was with Tim, and it's like gave yourself to the Lord.
Yeah.
You said Nikki sort of like literally just kicked you out. Is that right?
Yes.
And so how did your relationship? How did that happen? Well, not like saying how did that happen, but how did you get back in with Nikki, and what happened with her, and how did she take to this change in yourself?
I bunged her a couple of £100 and she said, "All right, no, I'm joking, nah." No.
That was a lot of money back
yeah,
then.
yeah. No. She, like I say, she was away anyway. So I I I bought her a load of presents and stuff, and flowers, and um, put a load of like red petals and that, all like ready for her to come home to and stuff like that. And and I just told her, I've gave my life to the Lord. I'm changed. I promise, and I swore to her that I'm not going to do it again and everything else. And she accepted it.
Did she think it was a joke?
I don't know. I honestly don't know. I don't know if she thought it was a joke or whether she just sort of see it was really the first time that I because I'd never really cared. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I'd never really cared. Like it is what it
Mm.
is. You know what I mean? You just put up with it, sort of thing. This is how it is, and you just put up with it. But I don't know if she thought it was a joke, but she was willing to give me another try. So I did beg her, to forgive me, and I promise, it ain't gonna happen again and everything. And she gave me that um, last chance in a sense, sort of thing. And she saw that I had changed. After a few months, 'cause Tim would come round, and sometimes we'd go up to my room, and he'd be playing the guitar. We'd sing a few songs, and she said she thought I'd lost the plot. She thought I was like a weirdo and everything. And then sometimes Tim would go, "You all right, Nick? How are you?" She went, "Yeah, I'm all right, Tim. Leave me alone. I'm all
Yeah.
right. Leave me alone. Sort of don't start coming to me and giving me all this God stuff. You know what I mean? Like, I'm happy for him, like, and that's what she would say. She's happy for me because it's changed me, and she's happy, but don't start getting her involved and all that.
Yeah,
But
yeah.
yeah,
So leading on to the next question then, how did this obviously affected Nikki at some stage.
yeah.
So what was the point when she started making a change?
So I got saved in, I would say, around about February 2006, and Nikki was pregnant with the twins. So she had the twins in April, and then after that, in the December of 2006, her niece had a road traffic accident, and
Mm.
she basically they basically they had to cut off the top of her skull because her brain swelled so much and everything, and they basically said, like, we're going to turn the machines off. She's, there's no brain activity, there's nothing. And Nikki got on her knees in the toilet in the hospital and cried out to God and said, "Lord, if you save Kirsty, I'll give my life to you.
Mm.
I beg you, please save Kirsty, and I'll give my life to you." And Nikki would go in the room, and Nikki would be like, "No, don't let them turn the machines off. She's gonna live. She's gonna live. She's gonna live." You know what I mean? She really believed, and she did. Her niece lived, and Nikki gave her life to the Lord. So yeah, that's how Nikki came to the Lord, and that was in the December, January sort of time of 2006. So the same year I got saved, but at the very end of the year.
Yeah, yeah,
So months later and after.
yeah. Oh, brilliant. And then so together, obviously you started going to Calvary Chapel, South London,
Yes.
talking like South London. And then obviously you sort of mentioned like 4 years in, you sort of had a bit of a fall, a setback.
Yeah. So as well though, Nikki was actually come to church for me. Not always, but she
Right.
would, even before she gave her life. So
Okay.
she was actually coming, and she really loved it. The people there showed her so much love and grace and everything. They were so lovely, welcoming to us all. You know what I mean? So she was coming anyway, like, not all the time, but she did make an effort. So yeah, so what happened to me after the 4 years? I was still on my estate I lived in, even though it had been 4 years, never touched drugs since I got saved, whatever. I sort of thought I could go down my local
Mm.
pub. I thought, like, I'm not going to do anything. You know what I mean? Like, I've been saved 4 years now. You know what I mean? I'm strong now. I can
Yeah.
handle it. And lo and behold, went down there, had a couple of beers, and because I still had people's numbers and I still knew everyone, obviously, that hadn't changed. I sort of had a few beers, made a phone call, got some cocaine, and fell. And that happened within about a 3 year period, 3 or 4 year period. That happened about 7, 8 times. It wasn't like I'd done it and then I continued doing it for a month. No, I'd done it, and then about 6 months later, I'd done the same thing again.
Right.
And about 4 months later, I might do the same thing again. And then maybe a year later, I'd done the same. But it happened about 7, 8 times within like a 3, 4 year period. And it was just like, you know, I knew it was wrong, you know what I mean? But yeah, it was just something I went through after like doing so well, you know. But every time, you know, the next day I would be really, really rotten and just worries me and everything else. And Nick would like, you know, get yourself up, you know what I mean? Give it to the Lord, you know what I mean? And sort it out, you know, get right with God again, you know what I mean? Give it to the Lord, you know, you've fallen, but give it to the Lord and get back up again.
That's it.
And so yeah, but it's been a good 13, 14 years, possibly, yeah, no, about 13, 14 years, yeah, that I've been completely clean, you know what I mean? Like never touched, like I don't even drink no more, you know what I mean? Not because there's anything wrong with it, but I don't enjoy it. I don't like the taste. I don't like the taste, and I don't like the feeling, to be honest. So, you know, I don't even drink no more. Like, not completely. I'm sure there'll be a time I have a little sip every now and then, but yeah, tipple. But it's like, you know, I just won't put myself in any situations down pubs or anything alone. You know what I mean? If I ever went somewhere and I'd make sure I'm with someone accountable. You know what I mean?
Yeah, no, definitely. I mean, like, I think we all get to a stage and we're sort of on fire for the Lord.
Yeah.
And I think sometimes that's when we sort of like let our guard down and become most vulnerable.
Yeah.
And then the temptation comes in and all of a sudden we fall. And it's the good thing is that you picked yourself up after that day and you had a good wife, Nikki, as well.
Yeah.
And she's saying, give it to the Lord, move on, don't dwell on it.
Yeah.
All sinned.
Yeah.
So no, it's
absolutely
putting you back.
Yes.
So, and without these experiences,
Yeah.
without realising it, these tests and these trials, it actually builds our relationship with the Lord.
Yeah.
Brings us closer, and it actually strengthens us.
Absolutely.
So I think many Christians turn around and say, "Oh, I wish I'd have come to the Lord long
Yeah.
ago." But without all them experiences in our life, doesn't make who we are today.
No, absolutely. And you're right. I do wish, because there was so much sinful stuff I've done in my life from very young, you know what I mean? So much sinful stuff I've done that I wish never happened.
Yeah.
But they did happen. And you're right. It's made us who we are today, you know what I mean? And maybe if they didn't happen, I wouldn't be where I am today. I wouldn't, you know, I might have this understanding. What do I need God for? I don't need God. My life's all right, thank you. Sort of thing.
Yeah, of course.
But also as well, you know, one thing that really helped me as well, you know, I always remember, you know, a couple of our pastors that we had at the time, Robert, Patrick, and Ephraim. And I know Robert was definitely one of them, but, you know, once he said to me, you know, after I'd fallen and all that, I went to meet him and everything. And he said to me, he said, you know, Raymond, you're always gonna battle for the rest of your life. You know what I mean? While you're in this flesh, while you're in this life, you're always gonna make mistakes. You're always gonna. And he said to me, you know, you're not the man that you should be, and you're not the man that you want to be. But by God's grace, Ray, you're not the man you used to be. And it's true, you know. And I look back and I'm like, yeah. And he was like, you know, you don't see it at the time, but then when you look back and you think, wow, yeah, I've changed so much, you know what I mean? Well, the Lord's changed me so much, should I say. But you know what I mean? It's like, you know, and I really appreciated that, because he weren't making excuses for me, but he was also saying to me, this is a journey, this is a walk, you know what I mean? That you're never going to get right. You'll never be perfect, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And yeah, just, it was that encouragement that was like, you know, because you feel like a little naughty school kid, you know what I mean, going to the school teacher sort of thing. And but they were never, Robert, Patrick, and Ephraim were never like judgmental or anything, you know what I mean? They'd tell you, you know what I mean, you know, you shouldn't have done that, whatever, you know what I mean? But you know what, it is what it is, you know, let's pray about it. Let's, you know what I mean? There was always that love and grace and mercy from them, you know what I mean? Never like, you know, anything to put you down or to make you feel like an unworthy, like that. There was always that love, that grace, that like lift you up as well as correct you, rebuke you, and you know what I mean. But everything in love, you know what I mean. So yeah.
Okay, and so like from going Calvary Chapel, South London, living up in Pimlico, etc. What brought you down to Kent, and what's your situation today?
So what brought us down to Kent was basically we lived in a 3-bedroom flat in London, and we had 8 kids, as you know. So there was like 10 of us in a 3-bed flat, and it was just unbelievable. They were never going to move us. They said to us they're never going to move us. They just didn't have the properties to move us. So they said, they recommend we go private. Now I wasn't, by then I started getting ill. I started having a load of illnesses come out and everything. So I was getting a bit like, less able in certain things. And so they said the only thing we can suggest is you go private, but we don't suggest you go private because if you give up council property, you won't be able to get back on again. You know what I mean? So we did. We went private, and we came up here to Kent to a bigger house. Even though it's private, it was like a 4-bed house, much more room for us. So that's why we moved up.
Excellent. Okay, and looking back in sort of like your life, and if there was sort of like someone in that sort of scene within the drugs, and they're literally same as you, like they're going out, they're putting on a front for everyone else, and they need help. What would your advice be to them? What encouragement could you give that person?
What I would say is, even if there's someone out there just smoking cannabis, thinking, "Oh, it's only cannabis," no. I'm telling you, cannabis leads to harder and stronger stuff. So, it doesn't matter what drugs you're on, whether it is cannabis. Cannabis will always lead to harder and stronger because you'll always want a better buzz. You'll always want a longer buzz. What I would say to them is, is sin, and the Bible tells us that sin is pleasurable, and if it wasn't, we wouldn't do it. It's pleasurable for the time, but then there's consequences to it. It's the same with adultery. It's the same with alcoholism. It's while you're doing it, there's that short time pleasure, but you're always trying to it's like a vicious circle because you want to get high to get rid of that low feeling, and then you need to get high to get rid of that low feeling, and it's just a vicious circle that it never goes away. And the only feeling that can take away the hurt, the pain, the confusion, all these things that you're running from, hence why you're taking the drugs, why you're an alcoholic, whatever. Alcohol, drugs ain't the answer. What I would say is, turn to Christ. Christ is the only answer. You'll be searching your whole life, doing drugs, sleeping around, trying to make as much money in your life as you can, but they'll never make you happy. Only Christ, only a life in Christ can truly make you happy. And it's really strange because, we don't have half the things we used to have, but we don't look over our shoulders, I don't wake up in the morning thinking, oh, what did I do last night? I remember half of it, but like, oh, it's so embarrassing. Oh no, please don't tell me I've done that. You know what I mean? Like, you don't have that, and people might say, oh, you think you're more righteous than, no, I don't. I actually know what a wretch I am. And I actually know that the Bible says your heart is deceitfully wicked above all things. Who can know it? So I know what a wretch I am and what my heart, the depths of my heart. But at the same time, what I also know is what the Bible says, that God sees the very depths of our heart, and yet he loves us the same. Yet while we were still sinners, Christ died on the cross for us. When I was at my worst, Christ died for me. And so, how much more now, even though I'm still not perfect and I still make a lot of mistakes all the time, how much more now, can I be sure in my knowledge and my understanding that, eternity is with him forever. You know what I mean? I don't have to worry no more about anything about this life or the next. He's done it all, and I'm in his hands, and no one can take me out. So
that's it. And we all need that daily grace, because
yeah,
we're all going to fall each day, whether
absolutely.
it's something big or something small. And the Lord just sort of like welcomes us back, and
Yeah,
he shows us that mercy and grace, and
yeah,
it's sort of like, don't hold that against yourself, but no, I
yeah,
mean, try not to fall into sin, but we're all going to do it because we're all
yeah.
fallen. So on that sort of side, I mean, do you want to give the gospel?
So what I would say as well, adding on to that as well, is that Ecclesiastes, I can't remember exactly where, but Ecclesiastes says, um, his mercies are new every morning. Great is thy faithfulness. Why? Because we mess up every day and we need his mercies renewed every morning. Great is his faithfulness, So yeah, John 3:16 says, for God so loved the world that he gave his only begotten son, that whosoever believes in him should not perish, but have everlasting life. God died for you. Even while you're a sinner, Christ died for you. If you're struggling, if you are hurting, if for whatever reason, you want a change in your life, you want to do the right thing, and you know that the way you're living isn't right, come to Christ. Give your heart and your life to Christ. He will never turn you away. God loves you so much that he gave his only begotten son to die on a cross. He lived a perfect sinless life. He didn't die because of anything he deserved. He died for you and me. He did not deserve to die on that cross, but he done it willingly because of his love for you and me. And if you accept Christ into your life as your Lord and Savior, you will have eternal life with God in paradise, in eternity, and you will never have to worry again. Yes, your life might not be a bed of roses, but it never is, inside of Christ or outside of Christ. Life isn't a bed of roses, but in Christ, it is a knowledge and a truth that God will never leave you nor forsake you. You're in his hand, and no one can ever take you away. Turn to Christ, turn to God today. Cry out to him. And if you've got if you want to ask any questions, if you're watching this and you've got any questions, you can always ask questions of me and Mark. And me and Mark are just two ordinary people. We really are. We're not educated people. We didn't leave with great educational grades. We haven't been to Bible seminary or a Bible college or anything. We're just two ordinary council estate brothers who have only even known each other about 4 years. We're just rough and ready. We just come from backgrounds probably just like yours who are listening. We are everyday people, and but we just want to honor God in our lives. And so look, me and Mark are here if you've got any questions. And God bless you. I pray that God will open your heart and your eyes and your ears to hear, to see, and to receive his truth today. In Jesus' name.
Amen.
Amen.
I wouldn't agree with the rough and ready, but but no worries. You'll be carrying on next week as normal, back to verse by verse. Gospel of John.
Yes.
Starting at John's 20.
Yes, I believe so. 22.
6:22.
Yes.
So yeah, apologies for missing this week, but Ray's testimony. Hope it helps someone out there and gives you a bit of understanding about ourselves. Take care. God bless.
God bless.